So we'd like to welcome everyone to our Sunday weekly reading of Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. If you get out your Krishna books, everyone online, and turn to chapter 61. And before we begin, let us offer our humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Vishnuvadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskachadeshatarane. And to each other, Vanchakalpadurubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we're on Haribol. Here, you can sit here. Chapter 61. Did Victor come too? Chapter 61. Genealogy of the family of Krishna. Krishna had 16,108 wives, and in each of them he begot 10 sons, all of them equal to their father in the opulences of strength, beauty, wisdom, fame, wealth, and renunciation. Like father, like son. All the 16,108 wives of Krishna were princesses, and when each saw that Krishna was always present in her respective palace and did not leave home, she considered Krishna a henpecked husband who was very much attached to her. Every one of them thought that Krishna was her very obedient husband, but actually Krishna had no attraction for any of them. Although each thought that she was the only wife of Krishna and was very dear to him, Lord Krishna, being Atma-Rama, self-sufficient, felt neither attraction nor enmity toward any one of them. He was equal to all the wives and treated them as a perfect husband would, just to please them. For him, there was no need of even a single wife. In fact, since they were women, the wives could not understand the exalted position of Krishna, nor the truths about him.
All the princesses who were wives of Krishna were exquisitely beautiful, and each one of them was attracted by Krishna's eyes, which were just like lotus petals, and by his beautiful face, long arms, beautiful ears, pleasing smile, humorous talk, and sweet words. Influenced by these features of Krishna, they all used to dress themselves very attractively, desiring to attract him by their feminine bodily appeal. They exhibited their feminine characteristics by smiling and moving their eyebrows, thus shooting sharp arrows of conjugal love just to awaken Krishna's lusty desires for them. Still, they could not arouse Krishna's mind or his sexual appetite. This means that Krishna never had any sexual relations with any of his many wives, save and except to beget children.
The queens of Dwarka were so fortunate that they got Lord Sri Krishna as their husband and personal companion, although he is not approachable by exalted demigods like Brahma. Lord Krishna and his queens remained together as husband and wife, and Krishna, as an ideal husband, treated them in such a way that at every moment there was an increase of transcendental bliss in their smiling exchanges, talking, and mixing together. Each and every wife had hundreds and thousands of maidservants, yet when Krishna entered the palaces of his thousands of wives, each one of them used to receive Krishna personally by seating him in a nice chair, worshipping him with all requisite paraphernalia, personally washing his lotus feet, offering him betel nuts, massaging his legs to relieve them of fatigue, fanning him to make him comfortable, offering all kinds of scented sandalwood pulp, oils, and aromatics, putting flower garlands on his neck, dressing his hair, getting him to lie down on the bed, and assisting him in taking his bath. Thus they served Krishna always, in every respect, especially when he was eating. They always engaged in the service of the Lord.
Of the 16,108 queens of Krishna, each of whom had 10 sons, there is the following list of the sons of the first 8 queens. By Rukmini, Krishna had the following 10 sons: Pradyumna, Charudesana, Sudesana, Charudeha, Sutaru, Charugutta, Bhadracharu, Charuchandra, Vicharu, and Charu. None of them were inferior in their qualities to their divine father, Lord Krishna. The names of Satyabhama's 10 sons are as follows: Banu, Subhanu, Swarbhanu, Prabhanu, Bhanuman, Chandrabhanu, Brihadbhanu, Adibhanu, Sribhanu, and Pradibhanu. The 10 sons of the next queen, Jambavati, were headed by Samba. Their names are as follows: Samba, Sumitra, Prujit, Chatrajit, Sagasrajit, Vijaya, Chitrakedu, Vasuman, Dravida, and Kradu. Lord Krishna was specifically very affectionate to the sons of Jambavati. The 10 sons of Lord Krishna had by his one wife Satya, the daughter of the king Nagnajit, were as follows: Veera, Chandra, Asvasena, Chitragu, Begavan, Vrisha, Ama, Shangu, Vasu, and Kundi. Amongst all of them, Kundi was very powerful. Krishna's 10 sons by Kalindi were as follows: Sruta, Kavi, Vrisha, Veera, Subahu, Bhadra, Shanti, Darsha, Purnamasa, and Somaga. The youngest son, the 10 sons of Lord Krishna, begot in his next wife, Lakshmana, the daughter of the king of Madras province, were named Pragosa, Gatravan, Simha, Bala, Prabala, Uddaga, Mahasakti, Saha, Oja, and Aprajita. The 10 sons of his next wife, Mitravinda, were as follows: Brika, Harsha, Anila, Gridhara, Vardhana, Unnada, Mahamsa, Pavana, Bani, and Shuddhi. The 10 sons of his next wife, Bhadra, were named Shankra, Majid, Prigatsena, Sura, Praharana, Arijit, Jaya, Subhadra, Vama, Ayur, and Satyaga. Besides these 8 chief queens, Krishna had 16,100 other wives, and all of them also had 10 sons each.
The eldest son of Rukmini, Pradyumna, was married with Mayavati from his very birth, and afterwards he married Rukmavati, the daughter of his maternal uncle, Rukmi. From Rukmavati, Pradyumna had a son named Aniruddha. In this way, Krishna's family, Krishna and his wives, along with their sons and grandsons and even great-grandsons, all combined together to include very nearly 1 billion family members.
Rukmi, the elder brother of Krishna's first wife, Rukmini, was greatly harassed and insulted in his fight with Krishna. But on the request of Rukmini, his life was spared. Since then, Rukmi held a great grudge against Krishna and was always inimical towards him. Nevertheless, his daughter married Krishna's son, and his granddaughter married Krishna's grandson's Aniruddha. This fact appeared a little astonishing to Maharaja Parikshit when he heard it from Sukadev Goswami, and the king addressed him as follows. I am surprised that Rukmi and Krishna, who were so greatly inimical to one and another, could again be united by marital relationships between their descendants. Quite from Sukadev Goswami. Because Sukadev Goswami was a perfect yogi, nothing was hidden from his power of insight. A perfect yogi like Sukadev Goswami can see past, present, and future in all details. Therefore, from such yogi or majestic, nothing can be concealed. When Parikshit Maharaj inquired from Sukadev Goswami answered as follows.
Pradyumna, the eldest son of Krishna, born of Rukmini, was Cupid himself. He was so beautiful and attractive that the daughter of Rukmi, namely Rukmavati, could not select any husband other than Pradyumna during her Swayamvara. Therefore, in that selection meeting, she garlanded Pradyumna in the presence of all the other princes. When there was a fight among the princes, Pradyumna came out victorious, and therefore Rukmi was obliged to offer his beautiful daughter to Pradyumna. Although enmity always blazed in Rukmi's heart because of his having been insulted by Krishna's kidnapping of his sister, Rukmi could not resist consenting to the ceremony just to please Rukmini when his daughter selected Pradyumna as her husband. And so, Pradyumna became the son-in-law as well as the nephew of Rukmi. Besides the 10 sons described above, Rukmini had one beautiful daughter with big eyes, and she was married to Kritavarma's son, whose name was Bali.
Although Rukmi was a veritable enemy of Krishna, he had great affection for his sister Rukmini and wanted to please her in all respects. On this account, when Rukmini's grandson Aniruddha was to be married, Rukmi offered his granddaughter Rochana to Aniruddha. Such a marriage between immediate cousins is not very much sanctioned by the Vedic culture, but in order to please Rukmini, Rukmi offered his daughter and granddaughter to the son and grandson of Krishna, respectively. In this way, when the negotiation of the marriage of Aniruddha with Rochana was complete, a big marriage party accompanied Aniruddha and started from Dwarka. They traveled until they reached Bhagavad-Gita, which Rukmini had colonized after his sister had been kidnapped by Krishna. This marriage party was led by the grandfather, namely Lord Krishna, accompanied by Lord Balaram, and it included Krishna's first wife, Rukmini, his son Pradyumna, Jambavati's son Samba, and many other relatives and family members. They reached the town of Bhagavad-Gita, and the marriage ceremony was peacefully performed.
The king of Kalinga was a friend of Rukmi's and gave him the ill advice to play chess with Balaram and thus defeat him in a bet. Among Kshatriya kings, gambling on chess was not uncommon. If someone challenged a Kshatriya to play on the chessboard, the Kshatriya could not refuse the challenge. Sri Balramji was not a very expert chess player, and this was known to the king of Kalinga. So, Rukmi was advised to retaliate against the family members of Krishna by challenging Balaram to play chess. Although not an expert chess player, Sri Balaramji was very enthusiastic in sporting activities. He accepted Rukmi's challenge and sat down to play. Betting was with gold coins, and Balaram first of all challenged with 100 coins, then 1000 coins, then 10,000 coins. Each time Balaram lost and Rukmi was victorious.
Shri Balaram's losing the game was an opportunity for the king of Kalinga to criticize Krishna and Balaram. Thus, the king of Kalinga was talking jokingly while purposefully showing his teeth to Balaram. Because Balaram was the loser in the game, he was a little intolerant of the sarcastic, joking words and became somewhat agitated. Rukmi again challenged Balaram and made a bet of 100,000 gold coins, but fortunately this time, Balaram won. Nonetheless, out of cunningness, Rukmi claimed that Balaram was the loser and that he himself had won. Because of this lie, Balaramaji became most angry with Rukmi. His agitation was so sudden and great that it appeared like a tidal wave in the ocean on a full moon day. Balaram's eyes are naturally reddish, and when he became agitated and angry, his eyes became more reddish. This time he challenged and made a bet of 100 million coins.
Again, Balrama was the winner according to the rules of chess. But Rukmi again cunningly claimed that he had won. Rukmi appealed to the princes present, and he especially mentioned the name of the king of Kalinga. During the dispute, there was a voice from the sky, and it announced that for all honest purposes, Balrama was the actual winner of this game, that he was being abused, and that the statement of Rukmi that he had won was absolutely false.
In spite of this divine voice, Rukmi insisted that Balrama had lost, and by his persistence it appeared that he had death upon his head. Falsely puffed up by all the ill advice of his friend, he did not give much importance to the oracle, and he began to criticize Balramji. He said, "My dear Balramji, you two brothers, cowherd boys only, may be very expert in tending cows, but how can you be expert in playing chess or shooting arrows on the battlefield? These arts are well known only to the princely order." Hearing this kind of pinching talk by Rukmi and hearing the loud laughter of all the other princes present there, Lord Balram became as agitated as burning cinders. He immediately took his club in his hand and without further talk struck Rukmi on the head. From that one blow, Rukmi fell down immediately and was dead and gone. Thus, Rukmi was killed by Balrama on that auspicious occasion of Aniruddha's marriage. These things are not very uncommon in Kshatriya society.
The king of Kalinga, afraid that he would be the next one attacked, fell from the scenes. Before he could escape even a few steps, however, Balramji immediately captured him And because the king had always shown his teeth while criticizing Balarama and Krishna, Balarama broke all the king's teeth with his club. The other princes supporting the king of Kalinga and Rukmi were also captured, and Balrama beat them with his club, breaking their legs and hands. They did not try to retaliate, but thought it was to run away from the bloodly sins.
During this strike between Balaram and Rukmi, Lord Krishna did not utter a word, for he knew that if he supported Balaram, Rukmani would be unhappy. And if he said that the killing of Rukmi was injustice, then the Balaram would be unhappy. Therefore, Lord Krishna was silent on the death of his brother-in-law Rukmi. On the occasion of his grandson marriage, he did not disturb his affectionate relationship with either Balaram or Rukmani. After this, the bride and the bridegroom were ceremonially seated on the chariot and they started for Dwarka, accompanied by the bridegroom's party. The bridegroom's party was always protected by Lord Krishna, the killer of Madhu demon. Thus, they left Rukmani kingdom, Bhoja Katta, and happily started for Dwarka. Thus end the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of 61st chapter of Krishna, the generous of the family of Krishna.
Chapter 62. The meeting of Usha and Aniruddha. The meeting of Aniruddha and Usha, which caused a great fight between Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva, is very mysterious and interesting. Maharaja Parikshit was eager to hear the whole story from Shukadeva Goswami, and thus Shukadeva narrated it. My dear king, you must have heard the name of King Bali. He was a great devotee who gave away in charity all that he had, namely the whole world, to Lord Vamana, the incarnation of Vishnu, as a dwarf Brahmana. King Bali had 100 sons, and the eldest of all of them was Banasura.
This great hero, Banasura, born of Maharaj Bali, was a great devotee of Lord Shiva and was always ready to render service unto him. Because of his devotion, Banasura achieved a great position in society, and he was honored in every respect. Actually, he was very intelligent and liberal also, and his activities are all praiseworthy because he never deviated from his promise and word of honor. He was very truthful and fixed in his vow. In those days, he was ruling over the city of Sonitapura. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Banasura had 1,000 arms, and he became so powerful that even demigods like King Indra were serving him most obediently.
Long ago, when Lord Shiva was dancing in his celebrated fashion called Tandav Nritya, for which he is known as Natraj Banasur, helped Lord Shiva in his dancing by rhythmically beating drums with his 1,000 hands. Lord Shiva is a well known as Ashutosh, very easily pleased. And he is also very affectionate to his devotees. He is a great protector for persons who take shelter of him and is the master of all living entities in this material world. Being pleased with Banasur, he said, "Whatever you desire, you can have from me. for I am very much pleased with you. Banasur replied, My dear Lord, if you please, you can remain in my city just to protect me from the hands of my enemies.
Once upon a time, Banasura came to offer his respects to Lord Shiva. By touching the lotus feet of Lord Shiva with his helmet, which was shining like the sun globe, he offered his obeisances unto him. While offering his respectful obeisances, Banasura said, My dear Lord, anyone who has not fulfilled his ambition will be able to do so, taking shelter of your lotus feet, which are just like a desire tree, from which one can take anything he desires. My dear Lord, you have given me 1,000 arms, but I do not know what to do with them. They are simply a burden. I cannot use them properly in fighting, since I cannot find anyone competent to fight with me, except your lordship, the original father of the material world. Sometimes I feel a great tendency to fight with my arms, and I go out to find a suitable warrior. Unfortunately, everyone flees, knowing my extraordinary power. Being baffled at not finding a match, I satisfy the itching of my arms by beating them against the mountains. In this way I tear many great mountains to pieces.
Lord Shiva realized that his benediction had become troublesome for Banasura and addressed him, You rascal, you are very eager to fight, but since you have no one to fight with, you are distressed. Although you think that there is no one in the world to oppose you except me, I say that you will eventually find such a competent person. At that time, your days will come to an end, and your flag of victory will no longer fly. Then you will see your false prestige smashed to pieces.
After hearing Lord Shiva's statement, Banasura, who was very much puffed up with his power, became elated that he would meet someone able to smash him to pieces. Banasura then returned home with great pleasure, and he always waited for the day when the suitable fighter would come to cut down his strength. He was such a foolish demon. It appears that foolish, demoniac human beings, when unnecessarily overpowered with material opulences, want to exhibit these opulences, and such foolish people feel satisfaction when these opulences are exhausted. The idea is that they do not know how to expend their energy for right causes, being unaware of the benefit of Krishna consciousness. Actually, there are two classes of men. One is Krishna conscious, the other is non-Krishna conscious. The non-Krishna conscious men are generally devoted to the demigods, whereas the Krishna conscious men are devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna conscious persons utilize everything for the service of the Lord. The non-Krishna conscious persons utilize everything for sense gratification. And Banasura is a perfect example of such a person. For his own satisfaction, he was very eager to utilize his extraordinary power to fight. Not finding any combatant, he struck his powerful hands against the mountains, breaking them to pieces. In contrast to this, Arjuna also possessed extraordinary powers for fighting, but he utilized them only for Krishna.
Banasura had a very beautiful daughter whose name was Usha. When she had attained the age of marriage and was sleeping amongst her many girlfriends, she dreamed one night that Aniruddha was by her side and that she was enjoying a conjugal relationship with him. Although she had never actually seen him or heard of him before, she awoke from her dream explaining very loudly, "My dear beloved, where are you?" Being exposed to her other friends in this way, she became a little bit ashamed. One of Usha's girlfriend was Chitralekha, who was the daughter of Vanasura's prime minister. Chitralekha and Usha were intimate friends, and out of great curiosity, Chitralekha asked, "My dear beautiful princess, as of yet you are not married to any young boy, nor have you seen any boy until now. So I am surprised what you are explaining like this. Who are you searching after? Who is your suitable match?"
On hearing Chitralekha inquiries, Usha replied, "My dear friend, in my dream I saw a nice young man who is very, very beautiful. His complex is swart, his eyes are just like lotus petal, and he is dressed in yellow garment. His arms are very long, and his general bodily features are so pleasing that any young girl would be attracted. I feel much pride in saying that this beautiful young man was kissing me, and I was very much enjoying the nectar of his kissing. But I am sorry to inform you that just after this he disappeared, and I have been thrown into the whirlpool of disappointment. My dear friend, I am very anxious to find this wonderful young man, the desired Lord of my heart."
Hare Krishna. After hearing Usha's words, Chitralekha immediately replied. "I can understand your bereavement, and I assure you that if this boy is within these three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems, I must find him for your satisfaction. If you can identify him from your dream, I shall bring you peace of mind. Now, let me draw some pictures for you to inspect, and soon you find the picture of your desired husband. Let me know. It doesn't matter where he is. I know the art of bringing him here. So as soon as you identify him, I shall immediately arrange for it." Chitralekha, while talking, began to draw many pictures of the demigods inhabiting the higher planetary systems. Then pictures of the Gandharvas, Siddhas, Charanas, Panagas, Daityas, Vidyadharas, and Yakshas, as well as many pictures of human beings. The statements of Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures prove definitely that on each and every planet there are living entities of different varieties. Therefore, it is foolish to assert that there are no living entities but those on this earth. Chitralekha drew many pictures. Among the human beings she drew were members of the Vrishni dynasty, including Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, Shurasena, the grandfather of Krishna, Sri Balaramaji, Lord Krishna, and many others. When Usha saw the picture of Pradyumna, she became a little bashful. But when she saw the picture of Aniruddha, she became so bashful that she immediately lowered her head and smiled. Having found the man she was seeking, she identified the picture to Chitralekha as that of the man who had stolen her heart.
Chitralekha was a great mystic yogini, and as soon as Usha identified the picture, Chitralekha could immediately understand that it was of Aniruddha, a grandson of Krishna's, although neither she nor Usha had previously known his name or ever seen him. That very night, she traveled in outer space and within a very short time reached the city of Dwarka, which was well protected by Lord Krishna. She entered the palace and found Aniruddha sleeping in his bedroom on a very opulent bed. Chitralekha, by her mystic power, immediately brought Aniruddha in that sleeping condition to the city of Sonitapura so that Usha might see her desired husband. Usha immediately bloomed in happiness and began to enjoy the company of Aniruddha with great satisfaction.
The palace in which Usha and Chitralekha lived was so well fortified that it was impossible for any male to either enter or see inside. Usha and Aniruddha lived together in the palace, and day after day, Usha's love for Aniruddha grew 4 times upon 4. Usha pleased Aniruddha with valuable garments, flowers, garlands, scents, and incense. By his bedside sitting place were other paraphernalia for residential purposes. Nice drinks such as milk and sherbet, and nice eatables which could be chewed or swallowed. Above all, she pleased him with sweet words and very obliging service. Usha worshipped Aniruddha as if he were the supreme personality of Godhead. By her excellent service, Usha made Aniruddha forget all other things and was able to draw his attention and love to her without deviation. In such an atmosphere of love and service, Aniruddha practically forgot himself and could not recall how many days he had been away from his real home.
In due course of time, Usha exhibited some bodily symptoms by which it could be understood that she was having intercourse with a male friend. The symptoms were so prominent that her actions could no longer be concealed from anyone. Usha was always cheerful in the association of Aniruddha, and she did not know the bounds of her satisfaction. The housekeeper and the guards of the palace could guess very easily that she was having relations with a male friend, and without waiting for further developments, all of them informed their master Banasur. In the Vedic culture, an unmarried girl having association with a male is a greatest disgrace to the family, and so the caretakers cautiously informed their master that Usha was showing symptoms indicating a disgraceful association. The servants informed their master that they were not at all neglectful in guarding the house, being alert day and night against any young man who might enter. They were so careful that a male could not even see what was going on there, and so they were surprised that she had become contaminated. Since they could not trace out the reason for it, they submitted the whole situation before their master.
Banasura was shocked to understand that his daughter Usha was no longer a virgin maiden. This weighed heavily on his heart, and without delay, he rushed toward the palace where Usha was living. There he saw that Usha and Aniruddha were sitting together and talking. They looked very beautiful together, Aniruddha being the son of Pradyumna, who was Cupid himself. Banasura saw his daughter and Aniruddha as a suitable match, yet for family prestige, he did not like the combination at all. Banasura could not understand who the boy actually was. He appreciated the fact that Usha could not have selected anyone in the 3 worlds more beautiful. Aniruddha's complexion was brilliant and swarthy. He was dressed in yellow garments and had eyes just like lotus petals. His arms were very long, and he had nice, curling, bluish hair. The glaring rays of his glittering earrings and the beautiful smile on his lips were certainly captivating. Still, Banasura was very angry.
When Banasura saw him, Aniruddha was engaged in playing with Usa. Aniruddha was nicely dressed, and Usa had garlanded him with various beautiful flowers. The reddish kunguma powder put on the breasts of women was spotted here and there on the garland, indicating that Usa had embraced him. Banasura was struck with wonder that even in his presence, Aniruddha was peacefully sitting in front of Usa. Aniruddha knew, however, that his would-be father-in-law was not at all pleased and that he was gathering many soldiers in the palace to attack him.
Thus, not finding any other weapon, Aniruddha took hold of a big iron rod and stood up before Banasura and his soldiers. He firmly took a posture indicating that if attacked, he would strike all of the soldiers down to the ground with the iron rod. Banasura and his company of soldiers saw that the boy was standing before them, just like the superintendent of death with his invincible rod. Now, under the order of Banasura, the soldiers from all sides attempted to capture and arrest him. When they dared to come before him, Aniruddha struck them with the rod, breaking their heads, legs, arms, and thighs, and one after another they fell to the ground. He killed them just as the leader of a pack of boars kills barking dogs one after another. In this way, Aniruddha was able to escape the palace.
Banasura knows various arts of fighting, and by the grace of Lord Shiva, he knew how to arrest his enemy by the use of a Nagapasha, snake nose. And thus he seized Aniruddha as he came out of the palace. When Usha received the news that her father had arrested Aniruddha, she was overwhelmed with a grief and confusion. Tears glifted down from her eyes, and being unable to check herself, she began to cry very loudly. Thus end the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of the 62nd chapter of Krishna, the meeting of Usha and Aniruddha.
Chapter 63. Lord Krishna fights with Banasura. When the 4 months of the rainy season passed and Aniruddha had still not returned home, all the members of Yadu family became much frightened. They could not understand how the boy was missing. Fortunately, one day the great sages Narada came and informed the family about Aniruddha's disappearance from the palace. He explained how Aniruddha had been carried to the city of Sonaputra, the capital city of Banasura Empire, and how Banasura had arrested him with the Nagpasha. Even though Aniruddha had defeated his soldiers, this news was given in detail by Narada, and the whole story was disclosed. Then the members of Yadu dynasty, all whom had great affection for Krishna, prepared to attack the city of Sonipura. Particularly all the leaders of the king, including Pradyumna, Satyaki, Gada, Samba, Sarna, Nanda, Uputanda, and Bhadra, combined together and gathered 12 Akshini military division into Palex. Then they all went to Sunitapura and surrounded with the soldiers, elephant, horses, and chariot.
Bhanasura heard that the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty were attacking the whole city, tearing down various walls, gates, and nearby gardens. Becoming very angry, he immediately ordered his soldiers, who were of equal caliber, to go and face them. Lord Shiva was so kind to Bhanasura that he personally came as the commander-in-chief of the military force, assisted by his heroic sons Kartikeya and Ganapati. Nandiswara, Lord Shiva, seated on his favorite bull, led the fighting against Lord Krishna and Balarama. We can simply imagine how fierce the fighting was. Lord Shiva with his valiant sons on one side, and Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his elder brother Sri Balramji on the other. The fighting was so fierce that those who saw the battle were struck with wonder, and the hairs on their bodies stood up. Lord Shiva was engaged in fighting directly with Lord Krishna. Pradyumna was engaged with Kartikeya, and Lord Balarama was engaged with Bhanasura's commander-in-chief, Kumbhanda, who was assisted by Kumbhakarna. Samba and the son of Krishna fought the son of Bhanasura, and Bhanasura fought Satyaki, commander-in-chief of the Yadu dynasty. In this way, the fighting was waged.
News of the fighting spread all over the universe. Demigods such as Lord Brahma from higher planetary systems, along with great sages and saintly persons, Siddhas, Charanas, and Gandharvas, all being very curious to see the fight between Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna and their assistants, hovered over the battlefield in their airplanes. Lord Shiva is called Bhutanatha because he is assisted by various types of powerful ghosts and denizens of the inferno. Bhutas, Pretas, Pramathas, Kuhyakas, Dakinis, Pishachas, Kushmandas, Vetalas, Vinayakas, and Brahma Rakshasas. Of all kinds of ghosts, the Brahma Rakshasas are very powerful. They are Brahmanas who, after death, have entered the ghostly species of life.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, simply drove all these ghosts away from the battlefield with the arrows from his celebrated bow, Srangadhanu. Lord Shiva then began to release all his selected weapons against the personality of Godhead. Lord Sri Krishna, without any difficulty, counteracted all these weapons with counterweapons. He counteracted the Brahmastra, similar to the atomic bomb, with another Brahmastra, and an air weapon with a mountain weapon. When Lord Shiva released a particular weapon bringing about a violent hurricane on the battlefield, Lord Krishna presented just the opposing element, a mountain weapon, which checked the hurricane on the spot. Similarly, when Lord Shiva released his weapon of devastating fire, Krishna counteracted it with torrents of rain.